Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And today, as you can see, I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon where I'll talk about the movies, obviously, all the merchandising, or I don't know, whatever the case may be. If it's related to Disney in any shape or form, then yes, there's a good chance I'll talk about it. So, okay, I haven't made one of these types of videos in a good while. And while, yes, a version of this was actually released eventually, but the thing is that there was going to be a different one that was actually going to be released. It was, yes, of course, we all know this movie was loosely based upon the Rapunzel story that was released a while back. By the way, this film was actually going to be more close to the title of the story. It was actually titled Rapunzel, even though it was later switched to Tangled as a reference to her hair, I guess. Which itself is fine, I guess, because that's kind of the point, I guess. But anyway, like I said multiple times when it comes to this series of videos, filmmaking is difficult, like no shit. But the thing is that even if you have a specific vision in mind when it comes to making a movie, it may not always get made, or at least tweaked up enough. For better or for worse, this hopefully is not too damaging, so to speak. Even if you got your foot in the film industry, that doesn't mean your film will get made at all. Sometimes it won't. And that's not me trying to discourage anybody. I'm just pointing that out because these things do happen. An example of this is, of course, Cyberpunk. That was stuck in production hell for several years before it was actually officially released. I guess you said that applies here. It took a while for it to be finally done, but it was finally made. But unfortunately, the thing is that it's not the original version that they were actually going. So the original pitch was a bit different, I guess you can say. So yeah, so there's quite a bit that those mini pitches that were, of course, commissioned, each with a unique spin on the story. Some were more modernized, and while others kept the fairy tale themes to it. So, but the thing is that, unfortunately, however, many early drafts of these pitch has been completely lost after they were pretty much passed over, so to speak. So, some of the details may be glanced over here because a lot of the original ideas that they had in mind were just lost, unfortunately. A really well known animator actually had an idea for this film which goes way back in the late 1990s, in 96 to be more precise. So yeah, the development for this actually goes that far back. Could have done like a GoFundMe kind of a thing, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, but allegedly he was coming up with the idea for Tarzan, which was later released in 1999, which of course was a big success. So that movie got in the way. Which of course, that's the thing. Selling things will get in the way, folks. Unfortunately, that's the movie business for you. And here's the thing: if you want to go further back, yeah, I mean way further back, Walt Disney himself originally wanted to do this. And what gave him the idea is, of course, after the success of Snow and the Seven Dwarfs. Yep, the one movie that started it all. When it comes to these princess movies, of course. So that became an unexpected success. So yes, this was originally going to be a hand-drawn animated movie. Yeah, I kind of wish it kind of stuck to that to some extent, I guess, but still, would have been at least a bit interesting to see how it would have turned out if it were done in that way. So, of course, this would have been around the time right before World War II broke out, I guess. Well, I guess having America officially be involved in it to be more technical, I guess. So, it just makes me wonder what kind of storytelling that this would have been. So an asshole decides to start World War II. I'm not saying he's the sole cause of it. Just saying. Also, I'm not saying that that was the sole reason as to why that this movie was not made, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's one of the key factors. It's not much of a stretch because that's exactly what happened with Frozen, the first one, which was stuck in development limbo or production hell for nearly a century. Because in March of 1940, Walt Disney himself had wanted to produce a version of this film, which was, of course, going to be loosely based on the Snow Queen. After the United States had entered World War II, Disney had focused making wartime animation, which of course had caused the limit on the this kind of project. So quite a few things were halted in 1942. So yeah, unfortunately, that got in the way. So I actually did an entire video on that already. But moreover, so yeah, that seems to happen quite often with some things. Yes, things got in the way. However, of course, fast forward quite some time. Yes, of course, there's going to be somebody else that was brought up for production for this film. Version of this film would have been produced by this guy. So he came into this, of course, and in 2001 he pitched an idea of the story to the Disney former CEO Mitchell, and yeah, he seemed to actually like it, but it was, of course, going to be that it had to be CGI instead of hand drawn. So yeah, he reported he was hesitant to do a CGI animated movie as he was a big part of the hand drawn animation. So, but he was intrigued by his challenge, the challenge to make a CGI animated film as fluent and as beautiful as possible, just like a traditional hand drawn animation. So yeah, his team began on creating some sort of a technology that would help to make this. Yeah, the original Shrek film, which was created by DreamWorks, was actually very successful. So at this point, it was decided to make it more like Shrek. So it was going to be like less of a dark story like the original film was. So they wanted to do like I guess, a comedy kind of a thing for this, I suppose. And yes, there was an actually script writer for this version of the film. So yes, they had someone, but the thing is that it has been said that he was the first writer on the project apparently. Though there's not much can say about the overall project of this. There's no treatments, there's no script drafts that have been released since then. So, but there were some music, some demo music that was done, two songs that was written for the film, and they were other girls in the world like me and all that I've done for you on somebody's website. So there was that, of course. So yes, there were other people involved as well, which of course includes these two individuals. And in case you're wondering, they also had actually produced movies like Bart. So yeah, and that's the thing. There's quite a few people involved in this project. Yeah, of course, the executive producer had moved on, delivered other short films like feature films in the meantime, and then on April 12th of 2007, it was revealed that an animated artist named Dean would be co-directing along with some other people, of course. So it's not that they haven't attempted to produce other animated hand-drawn features before, because around the same time they produced this movie, Princess and the Frog, which did okay, but it was not quite as successful as they wanted. So yes, that because of that, it played a bit of a problem here. Clearly, that made them a bit scared when it comes to these princess-themed movies, because obviously they want people to watch these films, of course. And that's the thing. This should be the most obvious things out there. You have to know your audience. Who's a targeted viewer of this? Who's going to watch this? You gotta make sure that all the marketing is correct, of course, and you have to make sure that the film itself is done correctly so that people can actually like this. Of course, that's easier said than done. You can still bound to make mistakes if you have that in mind. But anyway, of course, it's going to stress them out a bit more. So anyway, with the whole idea of the Shrek-like thing, uh, the switch to that kind of style. Of course, the title was Rapunzel Unbraided. Yeah, that's one of the original titles of the film. Rapunzel Unbraided was one of the titles here, folks. At the suggestion of Mitchell, the story itself, this is going to have the setting was said to be like a modern day San Francisco at the time. Yes, you heard me right, San Francisco. While obviously that was scrapped, but we did end up getting a San Francisco esque type of a setting in Big Hero 6. So for this version of the film, yeah, there was a bit more known about this version of the film. Have been known at the time because Disney had friendly discussed it. Disney had tensions with Pixar at the time, anyway. And the thing is that Rapunzel Unbraided was pretty much still like the big title at the time that they were going to really attempt to show that they could match up to Pixar's quality. I guess you can say they were pretty much going to compete against each other at the time. I suppose in 2005, the Disney hosted some I guess some sort of talk with some people at some sort of conference where this individual named Glenn gave a talk and showcased some concept art. So yes, there was actually some concept art that was done during this specific stage of this time. So that's something. But bottom line, at this point, it just felt that at this stage of production, it felt like it was actually going to go somewhere. Of course, that doesn't really mean anything. Of course, it was, yes, more delayed and more delayed and delayed, more delay. And yes, there was actually a bit of test footage was actually shown as well. Of course, one was a treatment of Rapunzel's hair at the time. That was something. Of course, clearly it's going to look far different than compared to the finished product, of course. And yeah, there was going to be a little cute little scroll here, folks. Yeah, the pet animal thing was still going to be a part of the story at the end of the day, like these movies tend to do. So that aspect, of course, still made it to the finished product, of course. So yeah, there was something of a treatment of certain scenes, is what I'm getting at. There was going to be, and the thing is that the main characters were going to be these two teenagers. Yeah, two teenagers will be the main character. Which was going to be Vincent and Claire. They were going to be voiced by some people, of course. That had some voice actors a part of this kind of a thing. So they had some sort of idea, of course. So there's that, folks. But point being, yeah, they had some idea of what they want to do, at least even if it's to some extent. Yeah, it's quite clear that there was some work that was obviously done. So that's something to do, of course, to take into consideration. But of course, it doesn't stop there. This just keeps going and going, of course. There was this individual, this woman named Jeannie, that was hired to write songs for the film. So excuse me if I butcher the names here. One of the individuals that was also involved, named Christine, that recorded a song from the film, What Would I Be Like? Nothing else that was, I guess, wrote was been restored or leaked. And then, of course, there were these individuals who made some music, but to what extent, I'm not quite sure because there's not much known about their involvement. Then, fast forward a year in 2004, these two women pretty much took over the writing duties of this, so to speak. So, yes, they were involved to some extent, I guess. Neither pair had wrote whatever. If they actually wrote a script for this film, it hasn't really surfaced. So, again, to what extent did they work on this? I'm not sure, really. This version of the film was eventually canceled in the earliest part in 2006 as one of the last acts of the this kind of era, so to speak, of Disney. So no other script version of this specifically came about, but there was a bit of an artwork, like I was saying, that was produced. Yeah, of course, like I was saying, this version of the film was eventually canceled, and the whole San Francisco one was also, of course, canceled. But obviously, this didn't last long whatsoever because one, the Pixar individuals, John Lasseter, and along with someone else, were put in charge of all Disney animation after the two studios finally merged. So, of course, one of the first decisions to actually do was to put Rapunzel back into pre production like it was before. So, it was temporarily canceled for a little bit. I guess just because something was canceled does not mean he has to stay there permanently, I guess you can say. Only this time it would be, of course, going back to the darker version that Glenn, whom I mentioned earlier, originally wanted to do. So, yeah, there was going to be the whole idea, of course, of having Rapunzel be the main focus of the story. Obviously, they took some inspiration from actual paintings that they looked at and just added here into the movie, which is fine because they're not the only people that have done this. So it gives a nice little touch to it. But yeah, existing technology at the time did present some difficulties, which of course was a problem to begin with. Of course, Rapunzel's hair was one of the problems that they had with this, of course. So her hair turned out to be such a big challenge. Senior software engineer had basically Katie spent 6 years writing programs just to make it move the way they wanted. So as of late of January of 2010, the directors were still not sure if the Rapunzel's character's length of hair was going to work. So eventually, these problems were eventually finally solved in March. So there was an improvement version of the Harris Animator program that was made. That was originally a data for the film bought was eventually used so as a way to make the hair itself move properly. So yeah, there were lots of difficulties animating the character. So yes, unfortunately, that did get in the way. So yeah, that was definitely a thing, folks. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of things got in the way, of course. So there was some creative differences in the sense that, of course, it was not going to remain the same. Obviously, like I said before, the original title of the film was actually Rapunzel. So yeah, they clearly didn't stick with that. Obviously. So in this version, Rapunzel, of course, like the character that kidnapped Rapunzel, yeah, that mother character was used, of course, and there was going to be other characters that was going to be involved. Yes, a pirate character. A pirate character was going to be used in this film, of course, but the pirate character was going to be designed to be this gentle giant thief kind of a character. There was also an evil thief character. That was also a part of it, but the head of animation, John Lasseter, viewed a presentation of the first act of the story in the summer of 2006 and reportedly thought it was one of the strongest opening acts of any Disney film. So, a positive sign there. So, of course, there were many changes made to this specific version, obviously. So, some characters were basically swapped out, of course, and they wanted to have a sinister, brooding villain in the tradition of Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. Yeah, the villain in Tangled obviously took some inspiration from Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, which I'm perfectly fine with. This definitely gives the whole traditional idea of where this is how the villains in Disney animated films, specifically the princess movies, should be. So, yeah, this is how they should be presented. Which, unfortunately, the thing is that, yeah, I liked it. I give the film that compliment, though, folks. That's a great idea. That it's wonderful. However, the Disney films these days just no, they just did it wrong. This is not how you make a good villain at all. But yeah, I do miss the villains in Disney films being done like this. They're evil, they're vile. They're not meant to be. Oh, I feel sorry. No. I don't know. Anyway, this is moreover is that yeah, there was a bit of controversy over the film's title because, like I said, it was originally as mentioned earlier, folks. It was originally Rapunzel Unbraided. Rapunzel Unbraided was the original title of the film. which was later just switched to just Rapunzel. And then later, it was just switched to Tangled. Disney's previous animated feature, The Princess and the Frog, while being well received by various critics, as I was saying earlier, with Princess and the Frog, it taken in $270 million worldwide, which didn't really make it a success as the Disney has hoped for. So later down the line, yeah, there was people behind the movie that it did admit in writing that Disney animations, I should say, faith that the Princess and the Frog, uh, excellent quality will bring in all the audiences, not withstanding by the word princess. So they thought the word princess may go against the marketing, I guess you can say. So yeah, they felt it was kind of like a stupid pill, so to speak. So in order to promote the new movie for both genders, men and women, and additional age groups, Disney changed the title from Rapunzel to Tangled, while trying to embrace the character of Finn Rider, whom's one of the most important characters in the film, and yes, he's a guy, showing that his story is just as important as Rapunzel's. So yes, Disney was criticized for altering the title as a marketing um, strategy. So yeah, one of the former Disney and Pixar animators and story artists has stated that the idea of changing the title for a classic Rapunzel-like story to Tangled was beyond stupid, according to this one individual. Yeah, one of the individuals who used to work with them was didn't like the change. They didn't like the change at all, like whatsoever. They thought it was stupid, and he was convinced that they're going to gain nothing from this except the public seeing Disney as desperately to find an audience. So yes, there was somebody who was used to work there. That was a dumb idea to change the title, as mentioned before. And yeah, okay. And then yes, there was somebody who was probably who said something from the article, of course, called Vanity, compared it to changing the title of the Little Mermaid to Beached, right, as a way to criticize the title change in Tangled. Writing the for the San Francisco Chronicles blog, there was someone else that see it said that accused the company of sexism when the individual made their own opinion about the whole thing. So I'll put the exact quote on the screen right there. You're going to see what the individual said. So yeah, even when the film was actually finished, it still received some controversy. Okay, some is an understatement, quite a bit actually. So yeah, not a lot of people were pleased about this because a lot of people felt that this was not a good idea whatsoever at all. But then on November 24th of 2010, the day of the film's release, the directors, let's just say, have reported that the title change was a marketing decision. They said that they changed the title from Rapunzel to Tangled because Rapunzel is not the only main character in the film. They went on to say that you cannot call Toy Story Buzz Lightyear because he's not the only main character. And they really needed the title to basically represent the film itself as a whole, I guess you can say, and that it stars the dual individuals. It's basically the two main characters. Yes, those two main characters, Rapunzel and Finn Rider. So then in March of 2014, the producer I keep bringing up, John Lasseter, explained that Disney had changed the title to improve the film's appeal to the as many as people as possible, of course. Yes, there was going to be an audience percentage that these films were just for little girls, and when the little boys, the men, or whatever, actually seeing these films, they like. So on with Rapunzel, they changed the title as if to appeal to as many people as possible. So yes, they did this as a marketing decision, yes, but they just want to make sure they get the intention of the people who don't normally show up to these kinds of stuff. So yeah, folks, basically all around problems even after the film's production. I mean, it did well anyway. It did really well. It became a highly successful film, of course. So that's something. So yeah, Tango had premiered in Paris in November 17th, and that's definitely a good thing, of course, for 2 weeks in advance of its French worldwide release, I guess you can say. So yeah, like I said, it did become one of the big successes of this princess stuff. So that's definitely a thing. So what got in the way, as I was saying earlier, just to wrap things up, I guess, was just the fact that there were too many people keep shifting. People will come in then leave. People will come in then leave. People will come in then leave. Maybe there were some decisions that were, of course, that were not agreeable, obviously. And then not only that, the people, of course, would have difficulty in animation. Like I was saying earlier, just a bit of a recap is that the technology at the time was severely limited, so it didn't go up to the standards that they wanted. So, yeah, that was definitely got in the way in a lot of ways, of course. So that was definitely a thing. So, yeah, just the thing is that this was in production hell for quite some time, of course. So yeah, I just want to talk about this kind of stuff, of course, and yeah, just want to spend more time to work on the story. It was just delay after delay after delay. So anyway, yes, like we said earlier, again, a bit of a recap is that yes, it was canceled for a little while, but then it's only brought back later on. So that should count for something. I guess they still have some faith in this film. I guess you can say so. That was definitely a thing, obviously. There were many changes that were done, of course, but there were lots of course, artwork. There were artists that were definitely inspired by the dramatic lighting and earth tone colors of some paintings, like we were saying earlier. Of course, they took some inspiration from paintings, and they tend to give the film a certain look to certain type of paintings. Of course, the film continued to go forward in development, and in spring of 2017 was brought to co-direct, and then in October of 2008, of course, unfortunately, one of the individuals that were involved in the one of the early stages of the film's production suffered a heart attack and had to set back from the time to spin away from the production. So yeah, the many complications of certain versions of this film, some things got in the way, complications because of a heart attack. So personal problems got in the way, of course. So there was this individual named Nathan that got involved in the project. Of course, basically redid the film's concept art, turning the film into a more of a traditional Disney's fairy tale musical kind of a thing. So yeah, certain versions of this film. I know I was kind of vague in certain aspects of this, but that's only because of the fact scripts were not made, or maybe were made but were not shown. So a lot of stuff not really even not even linked all that much, of course. So I know I've been bouncing around with different versions of the film, folks. I know I have to say, I know I've been bouncing around certain versions, of course, but like I was saying, not a whole lot can be said about the multiple different versions that was done for this film. So of course there's gonna be some. Even when this version that was finally released, yes, there's gonna be a lot of deleted scenes. A lot of deleted scenes that were actually made for the film that was released didn't was scrapped. There were plenty of deleted scenes that were actually removed, of course. So yeah, there was going to be like, quite a bit of stuff, of course. Some stuff was tweaked, shortened, or completely removed altogether. So yeah, there's going to be songs that were supposed to be in the film as well, but unfortunately never made it as well. But yes, this kind of thing does happen to a lot of movies anyway. So some things are not going to be remain the same, of course. But all right, like we're saying, let me just wrap things up here because there's quite a bit here. I mean, a lot of artwork was present, of course, that never made. Yeah, some artwork was done, but never animated. Yeah, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, yeah, there was that one scene where she was supposed to be taking a bath with all that hair, but it just left in a storyboard form, and that was it. It was never animated. It was sketched out in a storyboard, but that was it. So, I mean, I do wonder what would be the point of showing this. So, was it removed because of pacing? I mean, you could just show it for like a brief moment, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, like the more modern take, yeah, they basically scrapped that, thankfully. So, it was, like I was saying earlier, that like the whole San Francisco bit I was talking about a moment ago. Yeah, that was scrapped. I don't think that was a better decision to not have it like that. Take place in a more modern era. And how would that make sense anyway? I don't know. As these princess movies tend to take place in various eras in the human history's past, I mean, I guess you still could have queens and princesses. I mean, do like a England kind of thing or British. I don't know. I mean, there's a Queen of England, so there's that. I guess. I don't know. I guess it still could work to some extent. I guess. Because there's some places in the world that still have that kind of thing going on, even in today's age. So maybe it would make sense if they actually had that. But like I was saying, I'm not sure how that would have worked. Uh, really, I'm not sure. But maybe it would have been nice. I don't know. So yes, it did pay off because this became one of the most well-liked films that Disney had produced, which eventually had an animated short, and then which led to an animated series, which you can actually see on Disney Plus, by the way. So the animated series was actually hand drawn. Well, at least it looks hand drawn anyway. But the thing is that it's just, I guess it's just one of those things you have to take a risk. I don't know how successful it would have been otherwise. If this film was released much sooner, would have had gained the same kind of success as it did otherwise? That's up to debate. Just because it was success now does not mean it would have been success then. So yes, I guess in other words, what I'm trying to say here is yes, it's all in the timing. It's all in the timing for this kind of a thing. So it's up to debate if it would have had the same exact impact back then like it did now. But I would think it could have, maybe. And if it was successful, would have been as successful. That's another thing. Even if it was praised and it got a lot of money, it would have been as successful now then. Because this became one of the biggest hits at the time. This became one of the most successful films at the time that they had produced. So, would have been as big if it was successful then, is what I'm wondering. Or would it be successful at all? I don't know. So, yeah, it's just one of those things you just have to take a risk, of course. But that's the thing. Walt Disney took a risk when he was alive. He definitely took a risk. So, this is definitely one of those things you have to take a risk for, which is fine, folks. But ultimately, I'm glad they did. I'm glad they actually took the chances on what happened. So okay, so just to end this video, I'm gonna look at a few concept art pieces. I guess just give you more of the idea. So this was definitely something that looks kind of nice actually. So yeah, a lot of the behind the scene art actually looks quite good. Going for like the old fashioned painting, like was keeps bringing up, like from way back when, giving that kind of vibe from way long ago. I actually like this actually. It has a nice touch to it. Yeah, this film does have a very specific look to it, which is fine. So anyway, as always, thanks for watching and take care. Until next time, see ya. Oh yeah.